Okay, so let's talk about the MCU again. The
Hmm.
question today is, who are the Avengers? Like post Endgame, who's on the Avengers team? We know that the original six, half of them are gone. Black Widow and Tony Stark are no longer with us, and for all intents and purposes, Captain America, Steve Rogers, is no longer with us. So we already lost half the team. Hawkeye's kind of retired. We saw in the Hawkeye TV series on Disney Plus that he's kind of hard of hearing now. He's sort of not quite what he used to be. And so he's maybe passing the torch to the new Hawkeye, played by Haley Steinfeld, and then with Hulk, he's got a son now, but he's spending time at family barbecues. He's not really smashing things much anymore. He's also got a cousin who can probably do the job just as well. And then who else does that leave? Is there? Oh yeah, Thor. Thor's got a dog.
She-Hulk was
Adapted.
so bad. I will be so upset if they bring her into the Avengers fold. Oh my
That
god.
was a bad. Yeah. It was. That was it. The first episode was promising. Everything else went
It was
downhill
just
so far.
bad. Just really, 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 really
But
cheesy. Just bad, bad,
I mean,
bad.
that begs the question, though, right? Like, even Thor, like he's in some other corner of the universe with his new adopted daughter, doing his Thor thing, and there may be a Thor 5 on the way at some point. But aside from that, like Doctor Strange, like we have seen Benedict Cumberbatch like say many times, he's not part of the Avengers. Even in the
Mhm.
Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, you wouldn't really say he's part of the Avengers. He just was part of the fight that the Avengers were in. And we know that Captain Marvel's basically not really part of the Avengers. She's always off
She's
doing
like
her own
out
thing.
on a different
So
galaxy. Yeah.
that begs, and then Guardians of the Galaxy is sort of disbanded now. I mean, Peter Quill is back on Earth, but everybody else is like doing their own thing. So who does that really leave us? Like, do any of the new characters count? Like, what if I were to ask you, make me an Avengers team that makes sense from within the world of the MCU, and then also just in general, looking at all the characters that they've introduced recently, could you put together a team of Avengers right now?
Vision comes back from the fold. The Scarlet
Does
Witch
he
isn't
though?
actually dead,
Vision
is
died.
she? Vision.
Like,
What do you mean?
well, they resurrected a different version of Vision in
Yeah. So the new
WandaVision,
Vision, still Vision,
but he's like,
like the
okay, well,
new
okay,
Vision.
but he
So the
doesn't have the
Vision.
Infinity Stone in his head anymore. Does he have the same powers? That's a little bit of a question mark too, though.
So there are just way too many questions in order to properly answer this one. It
So,
just there's will there be
I
new
mean, nobody
heroes?
nobody remembers Spider-Man's name anymore. He's people know, oh yeah, there's a Spider-Man, but nobody knows it is Peter Parker. And then we were talking about before the show, like what is going to happen with the Avengers compound? In Secret Invasion, we saw that they went and took some of the DNA recovered from the site of the Avengers compound where that whole Endgame battle happens. But are they going to rebuild it? I know that in those last couple of Spider-Man movies, we saw that Tony Stark basically left his fortune to Peter Parker, but now in the world of the MCU, nobody remembers Peter Parker. So does Tony Stark's fortune actually have a heir at all? Like, what about like Pepper Potts or Happy? Like, doesn't
Yeah, that's
remember
another
him.
question. I'm like, I'm
So,
sorry, is Pepper now
so
broke, or does she just still the CEO of Stark Industries? Like, does she just not want the money? She's just off the grid. She's done.
I don't know. Like, it's just there's a lot of like these open-ended things. And yeah, now we have a new Captain America. You got
Yeah.
Sam Wilson playing it with Anthony Mackie in that role. So who knows? Maybe after the new Captain America: Brave New World, that movie comes out, we will get an answer. But right now, the question becomes like, A, who are the Avengers? B, where are they going to operate out of? There's no Avengers Tower. There's no Avengers compound. There's no Tony Stark to pay to build a new one. The Avengers were always kind of this pseudo military private contractor sort of a thing in the world of the MCU, and they didn't really have an official affiliation outside of the first Avengers movie where they were clearly working with Shield, which as an organization doesn't exist in the MCU anymore, and we don't even know who Nick Fury really works for. We just know he's constructing this orbital defense system that he's gone back to after Secret Invasion. So if let me just put all of that to the side for a second and ask you, based on the characters that you have seen in the recent Phase 4 and now Phase 5 projects, Ant-Man is still around, for example, who would you put on the Avengers team for Avengers the Kang Dynasty?
Not anybody
Anybody?
that I wanted to watch. It's like,
Now, do you think Hulk can still smash
I
anything
don't even know.
and do
I
any
feel like
damage?
he always showed up at the last minute, but even as an Avenger, like it felt like he was like trying to get out every time. He's like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. So it almost feels like he was trying to pass the torch during the She-Hulk thing, but even that was just a bad show. So to answer your question, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. Not
Yeah.
one that I like or love or want to be like as rah about as I was, the last and original set of Avengers. Like there was something about the Avenger movies that literally broke the box office, but also because they all had such deep connections. Like we had a grounding set in like Iron Man 1, 2, 3, Captain America, and then the second one. And then you know what I mean? We had connections with all of these characters on their own. And I almost feel like Marvel has let this sort of peter out to a point that they have to completely restart that process in a way. And they haven't started doing it yet. So
I just don't, yeah. All these characters that they've introduced also, none of them quite feel like they would naturally kind of get integrated into an because the Avengers, like once the first Avengers movie happened, like in Avengers Age of Ultron, they had all these new recruits that they introduced, like Vision and Wanda, and I think they had Falcon and even so they were adding these characters, but it just doesn't seem like there is that cohesiveness anymore. Who's gonna go out and recruit these people? Who's gonna kind of like what's the reason for them even coming together other than Kang, which seems like half of them have already beaten Kang anyway, so they're like, what's new about that? So anyway, I just think it's another reason why I think people are worried about the MCU, and the MCU is kind of in this weird like Twilight Zone of its own creation. So yeah, I just hope that we sooner than later find out who our Avengers are going to be, because I think that will help people kind of focus, like, what do we pay attention to? Do I need to watch this next MCU show that's coming out? Is this next movie going to make any sense? Is the new Marvels movie going to have anything to do with the next Avengers movie? Like, we just don't know, and that connective tissue is missing, and that's a lot of how people in the past used to put their Avengers fantasy lineups together and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, let us know in the comments below. What do you guys think? Are we going to get a team of Avengers sooner than later? Are we going to get some answers maybe in the new Captain America movie? Or anything? Are we gonna have a new Avengers?
Are we getting anything?
Will they have a floating tower in space like the Justice League in the animated show where they hang out now because Avengers compound got destroyed? Anyway,